Okay. Thank you so much. That's the right one. Okay. The famous mobbing and bullying. How are they different? In the workplace conflict study, researchers have introduced two distinct yet interconnected levels, mobbing and bullying. The workplace mobbing phenomenon is at times discussed interchangeably with bullying or workplace bullying. This interchangeability has raised concerns about potential semantic and conceptual confusion. And this issue has been touched upon by various scholars who study this unwelcoming workplace behavior. So what distinguishes mobbing from bullying? Drawing from a comprehensive literature review, intensive interview, focus group interview, and extensive analysis of thousands of pages of court documents from academic mobbing cases, this study identifies 10 distinctive mobbing patterns. The fundamental distinction between mobbing and bullying is premeditated, driven by a clear intention of eliminating a person from an organization. While bullying may be sporadic and takes unique forms through specific acts and actions, mobbing is consistently marked by careful planning and correspondence, using adaptable bullying activities. This data analysis findings underscore the consistency of this underlying pattern. The second mobbing pattern pertains to the process itself. While bullying can be linked to individual thoughts, mobbing forms a continuous wave of comprehensive, intangible, and abstract toxic work environment. The hostility often revolves around individual bullying acts, and it's a combination of these bullying activities that collectively give rise to the mobbing syndrome. This intricate and interconnected mobbing pattern is what very few people are aware of. To illustrate, bullying acts can be thought of as individual trees, and the mobbing process as a forest. It is always easy to see the trees, but it takes a concerted effort to have an overview of the forest until you yourself are in that. And once you're in that, there's no way to get out. Mobbing process unfolds through 5 distinct and evolving phases that intensify over time, ultimately culminate in the achievement of the goal, the elimination of the target. I will not, given to the time limit, I will not just illustrate the 5 phrases, so you can, the literature there. Should the perpetrators fall short in their mission to eliminate the target, another round of mobbing is often triggered, characterized by even more escalated process, which persists until the elimination object is met. The third feature is a long-lasting duration. To classify specific behavior as mobbing, it generally required that the attacking behaviors be repeated at least once a week for a minimum of 6 months. Mobbing attacks are often a daily occurrence with a form of consistent trivial bullying. However, the spectrum of the bullying process duration is quite broad. It could be, the duration is contingent on the resources at the disposal of the target, including time, financial means, energy, and their overall health. Victims are subject to this soul-crushing and soul-raping ordeals, spanning years or even decades. Most last about, based on the data analysis of the case analysis, most lasted 5 years. But in specific cases, it can last more than 1 decade. The longer the victim resists submission and avoid fleeing, the more pronounced the abuse becomes. As the victim persists in resisting, allegations and humiliations accumulate. The fourth pattern can be characterized as a low incident, high severity. Empirical study demonstrates significant differences in the consequences of mobbing and bullying. Mobbing in particular has consequences on both individual level and institutional level. At the individual level, mobbing extends far beyond the mere termination of employment. Victims are branded as shameful, wicked individuals. All of this go beyond mere personality clash. Research reveals a significantly elevated suicide rate among mobbing victims. Even without considering the dark figure issue, it is estimated that approximately 12% of professors subjected to mobbing ultimately commit suicide. A sad example is the tragic case of Justine Surgeon, a neurologist at McGill University, who along with her husband took their own lives in 1994. For those managed to return their position, they found themselves completely isolated from reputable social circles. The victims have nobody to talk to. They don't get any support from our society. The perpetrators instead succeed in permanently diminishing the victim, leaving them with lower self-esteem, reduced productivity, and feelings of self-doubt, shame, worthlessness, humiliation, unhappiness, and desperation. Only a few victims can extricate themselves from the relentless scheme. However, their life will never be the same. All the while, the perpetrator evades punishment and remain empowered to select new targets. This creates a vicious circle for any institute. Actually, the mobbing consequence extend beyond the victims. It results in multiple victims, including the perpetrator themselves, the bystanders, the related administrators, either directly or indirectly. The fifth pattern is the appearance of unanimity, where the prevailing belief is that everyone of significance deems the victim unworthy and desire their removal. In a specific case study, the Tenure and Promotion Committee displayed a unanimous opposition, with none of the committee members support the victim's tenure. Subsequently, the department head, the dean, the provost, the president, and all members of the board of regents committee voted against the victim's tenure. The sole decision in favor of the target's tenure came from an external arbitrator. In the same case, the victim was falsely accused of research misconduct, and the external inquiry committee's favorable voting was also unanimous. Had the victim escaped, stopped fighting, this will never be known. So this victim will be branded as wicked and liar, have research misconduct. The sixth pattern is a Harvard nature. It permits all stages of the mobbing. Understanding this pattern is crucial because individuals may never realize they are being mobbed unless they progress through all mobbing targets. The covert aspect is perhaps the most distressing part. While there are recognizable symptoms and empirical indicators that suggest an exclusionary process has crossed the boundary of rationality and civility, the largely invisible nature of mobbing process make it exceedingly difficult to ascertain whether elimination is occurring. For instance, in one case study, the gap between the initiation of mobbing and the victim's realization of being mobbed was approximately 3 years, coincident with the initiation for legal action. By interview, this victim just said it took her 3 years thinking day and night, what did I do wrong? Only at the point could speculative evidence be confirmed through reviewing of court documents such as interview of witness. In most situations, targets may never fully understand why they were targeted, because most of the mobbing cases are initiated by low incident. In some cases, this awareness only draws upon them after they have left the workplace, particularly since many victims choose not to fight. This lingering uncertainty may persist throughout the target's lives and lead them to question what happened to them for the rest of their life. Another covert aspect is that mobbing cases are frequently concealed from public view. A major reason is the targets are forced to accept the settlements and agree to not discuss the event when the perpetrators realize they were wrong. The seventh pattern is a violence pattern. Mobbing term itself has its origin in violence, and since the inception of the workplace mobbing term, it has been recognized as a form of psychological violence. In fact, Lehman initially published his paper in a journal titled Violence and Victim. The perpetrator's focus is primarily on the targeted individual rather than on any alleged offenses. These personal attacks are equivalent to animal behavior. It resembles the dynamic of domestic violence, except the setting is in an organization. It revolves around issues of power and control. So we all, why? People always ask why? This is like power and control, reflecting the patterns of domestic and subordination concerning aggression against one's own kind. The perpetrator relishes their power, often targeting subordinates whom they perceive as legitimately inferior and vulnerable. They derive satisfactions from their actions, believing it enhances their power, and they will persist in their behavior until it is halted by external intervention. However, due to the lack of mobbing definition and legislation, no legitimate external intervention is available. Society should treat workplace mobbing as seriously as it treats domestic violence. Given the profoundly distressing nature of the mental and psychological violence, it will be beneficial to introduce various degrees of mobbing, such as first-degree mobbing, second-degree mobbing, and so forth. And this clarification can serve as a practical starting point for the formal recognition and legal response. By drawing an analogy to the degree of criminal offenses like rape or murder, mobbing can be likened to acts that cause severe emotional or psychological harm, especially murdering the target's soul, leaving the target mentally disabled and emotionally dead. The S pattern is the target pattern. Unlike a bullying victim, mobbing victim exhibited a unidimensional age distribution. They are adults who share common attributes. In most instances, mobbing is directed at a single target. They are high achievers, often recognized as experts or superior within their field. They are not only productive, but also represent one of the institution's most valuable assets. They are furthermore successful and influential within the organization. Additionally, many of them are principled whistleblowers, often expose wrongdoings by influential figures within the workplace. A significant portion consists of a tenured professor who publicly address administrative misconduct. These individuals are known for their cooperative, creative, dedicated, emphatic, experienced, fair, just, loyal, and organized attributes. Furthermore, they often belong to religious minority group within the institution. These targets are selected for their intelligence, innovation, high achieving nature, integrity, and principled approach. Additionally, some have accent that make them stand out. Among these passive, so now the next is the next. Oh, sorry. The ninth pattern based on the analysis is the perpetrators pattern. Mobbing involved, we know that mobbing involves multiple adult perpetrators from multiple layers in formal organization, mainly in the health sector and education sector, particularly in higher education institutions. Study revealed that the percentage increased to 49% when it was focused on faculty mob. The multiple layer have vertical, lateral, and a mix of both vertical and lateral components. That means faculty on faculty, administrator on faculty, and the faculty on very few faculty against the administrative. So those are just the components. So this set mobbing apart from other forms of mistreatment. Despite the collective nature, there is always a dominant figure in mobbing cases. We call that the chief eliminator or active perpetrator. They are mostly high-level administrators or have influence on high-level administration. They gang up with a group of others. We call that the passive perpetrator, forming an opposing side. The passive perpetrator may include the dean, the department head, the provost, the president, ad hoc committee members, other particular committee members, all those other administrators, professor, trustees, secretary, and even student. So among all of these passive perpetrators, the union should be called out specifically. Among all the analyzed mobbing cases, the findings indicate that the union abused the power of their representation of the faculty. They use their position as a weapon. That's based on the, I'm not saying that all the universities union is not good. These are based on the mobbing cases analyzed. So the last pattern is the criminality pattern. That is the neglect of this unique form of white-collar crime, particularly within academic setting, often described as crime in the street. Workplace mobbing is characterized by offenses such as fraud, constructive fraud, and misrepresentation. These crimes occurred within the highly professionalized and rule-bound and seemingly civilized workplace, with the perpetrator operating at three distinctive levels: individual level, institutional level, and state level. The chief eliminator employs constructive fraud, which is a prejudice to the public welfare. make it look unconnected with any selfish or evil design. The root of mobbing is the administrators consistently diagnose the situation incorrectly, viewing any response from the target as further confirmation that the target is the root of the problem. Evidently, the chief eliminator cannot make significant progress without the backing of the administration and the passive support of numerous perpetrators. They choose to rely on deceit, falsehood, lies, and the covering up of evidence, fact, and truth. At the core of institutional betrayal is their resistance to admit error. Based on our case analysis, there is no record of an employer acknowledging fault and provide redress for the wrongs suffered by the employee. When a colleague at the university attached a stigma to a professor and expelled them officially, it frequently exhibits extreme reluctance to reverse its decision and admit to make a mistake. Among all the mobbing cases we analyzed, guess how many admit? Zero. Zero admit they're wrong. Instead, the senior administrators engaged in a highly coordinated effort to cover up and suppress information and material evidence. They are consistently inconsistent. The chief eliminator received unwavering support and applaud from the administration. When they have to conduct internal investigation, the data collecting and the due diligence are in reality in favor of the perpetrator. So we talked, I just talked about the difference, the mobbing, bullying. I hope this can give you, using that 10 patterns based on the analysis, I hope can give you some kind of gist of that. So I'm going to summarize the structure nature of workplace mobbing. It is characterized by multi-dimensional composition, involving a series of interrelated mobbing acts and action. This process is constructed by accumulating numerous actions that may appear independent, but are in fact highly coordinated with distinct bullying characteristics. The patterns of workplace mobbing reveal a systematic elimination process. It consists of a sequence of meticulously designed and interconnected bullying acts and action, but they make it looks like they are not related. This action represents a collective result of repeated unidimensional bullying acts occurring with consistent patterns and a high frequency over an extended period. To formulate a prospective code or law designed to prohibit workplace mobbing behavior, it is imperative to establish clear and specific conceptual and structural distinctions between mobbing and bullying. And there are, well, so many research questions that have been waiting for us to work on. Those are just some examples. There are many, many research questions worth further exploration, especially using the quantitative methodology and mixed methodology. Thank you.
Yes.